Hi guys, this is Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and I've got a sea monster in my hands. This is my very first Wee knife review. This is the 713D. There are 4 different color options with this one. This is, of course, the D, all black, just released. You can find it at Massdrop right now for a couple days. I'll give you links for that in the description below. I couldn't find it anywhere else right now. Massdrop has it at $254 US. And, that's what most of the Wee knives in the 700 series are going for. So very comparable. Very cool knife, if you ask me, just for the looks, styling cues, workmanship materials, all that good stuff. M390 blade, titanium handle scales. Everything's one-off, custom pocket clip. Everything is, one-off made. Even has titanium hardware throughout. Feels pretty good in the hand, if you ask me, but not great, unfortunately. But there's a whole lot more good that I want to talk about for this knife. You've got all belly all day long, big round blade, and a drop point blade that wants to be a Wharncliffe, except for Wharncliffes, as you know, need a flat blade. And this is a big belly. So it's when a Wharncliffe and a drop point had a baby, you end up with something like this. So if you're interested in a full review of this guy, then stick around. This is my first Wee knife review, so I'll be showing you the pouch. You've got a nice pouch, well made, well sewn, decent quality zipper, nice soft interior. The pouch is really made that it can hold 2 knives very well, and it can. And with the protection and the way they are, and the opposite ends with this hole, you have your knife in that pouch, and it won't be touching the other one. They won't scrape on each other or make any marks or anything, because the other side that's exposed is over here. And so that's a really cool way to carry around 2 different knives at one time. There's their logo. There's their URL, weeknife.com. Comes with a nice cloth, good size cloth, a little bit bigger than what some places give you. And it's always nice to be able to clean your blade every once in a while to make it look all fancy schmancy. So that's that. That's all I'm going to talk about. You've got that sort of fake fur kind of in here. Now that's all I'm going to talk about those. What do we have as far as materials go? I mentioned M390 for the blade. That's a really good steel. I like that. It's a premium steel. Cuts well. Rockwell hardness around 60, give or take a tiny bit, depending on the heat treat. Wee Knives claims this to be between 59 and 61, so I'll just say 60. We've got a black coating here, black inside the fuller, black across the spine of the blade. So if I hold this straight up and down, all you see is black, and that's legitimate. You should only see black. But when I hold it this way, you should be seeing some nice silver steel color on these flat areas here and on the final grinded edge right there, final ground edge. So it's just because the way light works in these kind of studio type settings, you can't always see exactly what you've got. But take a look at that. It just looks nice. This is a beast of a blade. You've got this kind of, I'm going to call them ribs for the sea monster. And it's kind of, and then we've got another little ground out trench right at the back here. Teardrop kind of styling for the lanyard hole, nice big lanyard hole. Titanium screws. These are really nice, and they're kind of a bronzy, coppery sort of, what's the word that I'm looking for when something's made to look a little bit old? Distressed or patina. It's got almost that kind of look on these screws. You got a pocket clip. That's a special, unique kind of one-off pocket clip. You can see how it's made and mounted on there. Large, but only one screw there. And then it's also got that sort of scalloped kind of look that they're repeating from the theme on the spine of the blade. on the spine of the handle scales and on the spine of the, well, this is the blade. That's the back spacer and the handle scales. They're repeating that with that kind of undulation on the pocket clip. And that pocket clip is really well made, milled out. It works very well in and out of the pocket. I was quite surprised. I thought it might be a little bit problematic, but excellent. Works very well. And then it just says WE Knives right there. That's the only place you see the words WE Knives on this knife. You don't see any other writing except for right there in really tiny letters. It says M390. There you go. It says M390 right there by my fingernail. That's the only writing you see is by the pocket clip and there. I like that. I like that a lot. I wish more and more knife manufacturers would do that. I don't want to be reading a book. I want to be having a knife in my hand. You get the WE logo on the pivot cap right there. That's titanium. Screws are titanium. Handle scales titanium. Pocket clips titanium. Everything's titanium except for the blade, and in here you see the blade insert and over travel stop all in one piece of steel. And the other thing that's not steel is the ball bearings. Those are ceramic. Very nice, eh? Feels really, really good to have a ceramic kind of pivot. It just flows very well. The bearings are very smooth. You just turn it over and it just falls down. You get it over just a little ways and it just wants to fall in. Very nice. Nice milling here. Looks really good. Let's show you what it looks like in a pair of pants. Since I was going on about that pocket clip. There you go. It holds quite deep. You've got a little over 1/4 of an inch sticking out. Not quite a centimeter. And then you've got that pocket clip. Not bad. It looks good. Holds well. Has just enough retention to be worth it. And you don't have to do anything special to try to get it to get on there. It just works. It just works really well. I like that. Let's give you the dimensions of everything, and we'll just zoom in to get a closer look at this knife while we do that. Okay, cutting edge, 7.8 centimeters, 3 inches. Blade length, so end of the handle, tip of the blade, 4.8 centimeters, 3.3 inches. The blade thickness, it's 3.9 millimeters. That's 0.154 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind. I was disappointed, to be honest with you, with this being my first WE knife. And I don't watch an awful lot of other reviewers. And so I just don't want to be overly influenced by what they have to say about certain knives and things. I tend to take a knife, I use it, I play with it, I do my review, and then I check and see what some other people had to say, you know, and see how far off I was from their opinions or whatever. I would like this to be thinner. It's 0.7 millimeters thick behind the grind right there. That's 0.027 inches. So you're looking at almost 3/4 of a millimeter thick behind the grind. M390 doesn't need it to be that thick to have strength to stop it from chipping and rolling over and all that good stuff. It could be thinner behind the grind and still be just as strong, just as robust, just as useful, actually more useful, but without any of the bad risks that go with going too thin. Easily, it could be 0.5 millimeter. It could be 0.4 of a millimeter thick behind the grind, and the knife would be that much more efficient as a good slicing cutter. And that's what this knife is mainly designed for, is as a slicer. Not so much as a stabber, because of the way this tip's made. That tip is super strong. If you did use this blade in a stabbing motion, that tip's going to take an awful lot of abuse before it gets damaged, because you get all that thickness just before you get to the tip. So full thickness before you get the tapering right there. Okay, now let's talk about the handle a little bit. The handle length, 12.7 centimeters, 5 inches on the nose. Grip area, and that's from behind the flipper arm, and I'm measuring it to right there where my thumbnail is right now. That's what I'm calling the grip area on this knife. 8.64 centimeters, 3.4 inches. Handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip, is 1.36 centimeters. That's 0.538 inches. So a little over half of an inch. Not bad at all for this size knife. The total length of this knife is 21 centimeters. That's just over 8¼ inches. 136 grams, 4.76 ounces. I already mentioned how much this knife costs. It's going to go for around 250 American dollars. And, I'll give you the link for the Massdrop down in the description below if you want that right now. Pros and the cons and everything. I like this knife. I like the shape of it, styling. It gets loads of points for styling. If you want something that's sort of in your face, kind of, that's what this knife does. And it does it well. It keeps the theme going throughout. It stays consistent with it. The colored versions that I've seen pictures of, they look really good. What else is good? Use of materials. Very good materials. Well milled. So design work is good. Execution is good. I don't mind this backspacer at all. I usually like open pillar construction, but this backspacer is done quite well. If I can get the light right in there, you can see that there is some skeletonization in there. They did some milling out. They didn't cut all the way through, of course, but they did some milling out to help this knife lose weight. And that's what keeps it at well under 5 ounces. I just can't get over those bearings. Those ceramic bearings are awesome. I believe it's also a ceramic bearing that they got on the detent there. Done very well. Very, very, very gentle kind of jimping that they put on the relief arm. There you go. The light's on it right now. You can see those tiny lines right there, so that when you get that tiny bit of grip with your thumb to release the frame lock so you can close the knife, works excellent. Very, very well. Better than it being smooth, and yet it's not sort of in your face rough. With my left hand, I just barely had it go open. I didn't push hard enough on it. In my left hand, it feels, okay in the hand. I'm not that comfortable with it in my left hand, to be honest with you. It's not bad, but it's not great either. My hands are large, right on the borderline between large and extra large. And it's a little bit hot on the pocket clip right there with these two small fingers. A little bit hot on the front choil right here with this finger on index finger along the inside right there. And in my right hand, it's almost worse right across the choil here with my index finger. Mostly at the back here where you've got your frame lock arm meeting up with the handle scales, and you've got those two different sizes right there, and you get that spot. Let's see if I got a pen handy. I'll point with this piece of paper. You've got that spot right there that kind of begins to feel just a little bit hot, and it does it rather quickly if you grab the thing hard and hold on tight. And this is almost worse, though, where the front choil becomes the hold for your back three fingers. That point there is raised up a little higher than I like. And when you grab it, if you're just a slight bit off, you rub across there and it causes a little bit of a hot spot. When you do the forward choil thing, it gets okay, except for my fingers. They're not huge. Like, I don't have big fat fingers. You can see them. My finger gets nicked on the cutting edge of the blade right there. That this forward choil, if it was just slightly bigger, either if they brought it back further this way, which they could have done easily enough, they could have brought it back this way and still left the blade length the same. It would be a little bit better. I think they have like almost 1/8 of an inch that they could have worked with to move that back, and it'd be a whole lot better. It's not bad. It's just I have nicked my finger just a little bit on the edge once already when I was using it. Not that big of a deal. Like this jimping up here on the top, sort of that sort of 3 detents, not detents, those 3 little waves that are cut in there. It actually works quite well with the thumb. Nice and there's no sharp edges. It's nice and rounded, beveled on the sides. Really, really well done. Flipper's well beveled everywhere. All the edges have been softened, except for a couple of those spots that I mentioned already. So I've mentioned some pros, mentioned some cons. Let's see how well it cuts. I've got some paper here that's just a little bit lighter than most paper. It's probably about 18 pound. Oop, didn't want to cut that well right there, does it? There we go. Cutting very well when it wants to. This paper got very humid, so it's got a lot of softness to it, and that's what I'm going to blame for this, that it didn't look that great a couple times. This knife is very sharp the way it is, and it's done very well. The grind is consistent all the way through. There's no errors in the grinding that they did. Looks really well done. Let's cut some paracord. So 3 layers of paracord, cuts through quite easily. No problem there. And of course, with all this belly, this knife will just slice through things very, very easily. No problem at all. And of course, you can just go straight down and cut if you want to as well. This is 9-strand paracord. Making confetti. No problem at all. Very nice edge. And if I look very closely on this edge, absolutely no damage at all. Nail neck test. It grabs on very well all the way across the knife. Really, really well done. And you can even use it on wood if you want to. Wow, that is slicing very, very well. I'm trying to do these fine little curls on it. And yes, it's doing some very fine little curls. Not a problem there. If it was a little thinner behind the edge, yeah, it'd be a little bit better, but that's not bad at all. That's quite good. So there you go. This is my first Wii knife experience. I need to be sending both of these knives on to someone else. And between that fact and the fact that I've got a busy weekend, I'm planning to go see my grandchildren again. And my son made the announcement this past weekend that he's getting married, so we're starting plans for that. And, you know, it's only 4 months away that he's getting married. So there's a whole lot of rush happening in my house right now. And I'm starting up a second channel. So lots of stuff on my plate. Those of you who are curious, my second channel is going to be anything except for knives. Hopefully in 3 or 4 months, 5 months time, I will get rid of Miscellany Monday. It'll be that kind of stuff. The stuff I did on Miscellany Monday, that's going to be on the other channel, and I'll just have knife stuff here. So yeah, I like this monster. Would I carry it around? Probably not. I'm not too fond of how it feels, couple hot spots. And it does look a little bit intimidating for where I live. Canada is a little more conservative than the United States. Actually, a little more liberal, actually. A little more afraid of knives and stuff than most people in the United States are. And this knife would be a little too intimidating. I think it might get somebody, wanting to call the authorities or whatever. But in terms of its execution and build, this is definitely a pass. If you really like the styling, it's definitely a recommend. And if you don't like the styling, hey, get something else. There's all kinds of stuff. I'll be taking a look at the other Wii knife, 712, very soon, but it will be at least a week before I show that video. Within a week's time, the knife is long gone to somebody else, but it'll probably be next week or the week after where I actually do the review of the 712. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thanks for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.